Struggling single dad helps a farmer repair her shed, unaware she owns thousands of acres of farmland. Snow crawled across the valley like a slow-moving tide, swallowing fence posts, resting heavily on dying grass, wrapping the world in a pale hush. The cold had the kind of bite that crept past layers of cloth and bone, the kind that made a man rethink every mile he'd driven in his life. Elias Ward struck wheeze once, coughed twice, and gave up entirely along a narrow back road few people ever use anymore. Steam curled from the hood in thin, ghost-like ribbons. Inside the cab, Lila looked up from her sketchbook, her breath fogging a little cloud on the window. "Daddy," she whispered, "it smells like the truck is sad." Elias almost smiled. "It's just tired, sweetheart. We'll figure something out." He opened the door, bracing against the wind that slapped at his coat. The valley stretched empty in every direction, except for one place, a small farmstead resting beneath the ridge, a tired-looking shed trembling beneath the storm's weight, and a woman, standing alone beside it, fighting the wind as though it were a living thing. Elias froze for a moment. She had no gloves, no hat, just a worn jacket, hair stuck to her cheek with melting snow, and both hands pressed against a door that looked ready to rip off its hinges. He turned back to Lila. "Stay right here. I'm going to help her." Lila nodded, clutching her sketchbook as though it were a shield. Elias trudged through the snow, every step sinking deeper, the wind pushing against him. When he reached the woman, he didn't ask permission. He simply pressed his shoulder against the warped door and took the weight from her. Relief flickered across her face, though she tried to mask it. "Storm came quicker than they said," she breathed. "Storms don't usually ask permission," he said. That earned him the smallest, almost accidental smile. Together, they pushed the door back into place. The hinges groaned but held, for now. When the strain finally eased, she stepped back, brushing hair from her eyes. "Thank you," she said, her voice quiet, scraped by cold and solitude. "I'm May." "Elias," he said, "my truck died up the road. Saw you struggling. Well, you picked the worst night for breakdown." Her voice had a warmth beneath the weariness, like embers beneath ash. She hesitated before speaking again. "If you know your way around a hammer, I could use help fixing this before the storm tears it apart. I can pay you. Fairly." Elias opened his mouth to refuse. Pride had kept him alive long after reason left. But then he saw Lila watching from the truck, small face pressed to the window, eyes wide with hope and cold. He needed the money. He needed the kindness, too. "I can help," he said softly. "Let me just bring my daughter in from the cold." May's expression softened at once. "Of course. Bring her inside." The stove's lit. Inside the farmhouse, warmth greeted them like an old friend. The kitchen smelled of wood smoke, tea, and baking biscuits. Lila looked around with the awe of a child entering a storybook home. May knelt to her height and offered her a warm biscuit wrapped in cloth. "You like to draw?" May asked, pointing at the sketchbook. Lila nodded. "Good," May said gently. "The world needs people who notice things enough to draw them." Lila blushed and buried her face in the biscuit. Elias felt something in his chest loosen, something he hadn't felt in a long time. Work began slowly. The shed was older than Elias had expected, timber softened by years of storms, nails bent by time. But he'd done harder jobs with less to work with. May worked beside him with stubborn determination, despite the subtle wince in her shoulder. "You don't need to lift that," he said once. "If I don't lift things," she replied, "they don't get lifted." He didn't argue. Hours passed under the pale roar of snowfall. Lila wandered the edge of the farm, sketching fences and broken beams. While clearing the shed, she found a small metal box hidden beneath a loose board. "May!" she called gently. May froze the moment she saw it. Her breath hitched. She knelt, opening the lid with trembling fingers. Inside lay a faded map, acres and acres of land outlined in Kaffir ink, and a photograph of May sitting on a horse, sunlight catching her hair, a younger version of the woman standing beside Elias now. May swallowed hard and shut the box. "Just old things," she murmured, tucking it away. "Stories for another day." Evening settled softly over the valley. The snow thickened, pressing against the windows with gentle persistence. May insisted they stay for dinner. Elias tried to decline, but Lila tugged his sleeve, whispering, "Please? It's warm here." He couldn't say no, not to her, not to the quiet ache in May's eyes that suggested she hadn't shared a meal with anyone in a very long time. The kitchen glowed with lamplight. May cooked stew that filled the room with warmth. Elias helped slice vegetables. Their movements fell into a quiet rhythm. Lila noticed a broken chair tucked near the corner. "What happened to that one?" she asked. May paused, wooden spoon hovering above the pot. "It belonged to my brother. He used it until it gave out. Haven't had the heart to fix it." Silence settled, deep and a little raw. Elias recognized that kind of silence. It was the same one he carried when people asked about Lila's mother. They ate together, simple food shared without expectation. When Lila finished, she shyly handed May a sketch, her kitchen, drawn with gentle strokes, even including the broken chair. May stared for a long moment before whispering, "It's beautiful." Her voice nearly broke. "Thank you." Later, a sudden howl of wind rattled the windows. The shed groaned. Elias was out the door instantly, lantern in hand. May followed, coat half-buttoned. The wind battered them, tearing at their clothes. The beam Elias had reinforced trembled violently. He threw his weight against it. May tried to help but slipped. Her boot caught ice, body pitching forward. Elias grabbed her waist, pulling her against him. Their breaths mingled in the cold. Snow dusted their shoulders like fragile threads of light. For a long moment, neither spoke. When she finally stepped back, her voice was barely a whisper. "That shed, that land, all of it, it's mine. Thousands of acres. People think that means wealth, but it's just loneliness stretched across miles." She looked away, ashamed of a truth she'd carried too long. "I stopped telling people. No one saw me, only the land." Inside, back by the fire, May finally told them about the letter framed on her shelf, written by her brother during his last winter when grief had begun hollowing him out. "Don't sell the land, May. Don't break it into pieces. Let it breathe through you. Let it outlive us both." Her hands shook slightly. "I made a promise, but I've been trying to do all of it alone. And I'm tired, Elias. So tired." Elias understood. Loss had carved its initials into him, too. His wife's last words still lived inside him. "Keep Lila's world gentle, even if yours isn't." He had kept that promise, but it had cost him pieces of himself he wasn't sure he could rebuild. Lila wrapped her fingers around May's hand. "You don't have to do it all alone." May's eyes glimmered. She covered the child's hand with a trembling palm. Something fragile and hopeful settled between the three of them. Dawn came soft and silver. The storm had eased, leaving the world washed clean. Elias repaired the last beam of the shed, his breath forming clouds in the crisp air. May watched from a few steps away, expression unreadable but deeply tender. When he finished, she offered more work, not as charity, but partnership. "I don't need someone to fix things for me," she said quietly. "I need someone who understands why things matter." Elias lowered his gaze. "I don't want to be a burden." "You aren't," she said. "You and your daughter, you brought something back into this place." Lila slipped her hand around her father's fingers. "Daddy, can we help her more?" His breath caught. "If she wants us." May's smile was small, but it held steady. "I do." Before the day ended, she led them up a ridge behind the farmhouse. From there, the valley unfolded in a vast, golden sweep, fields, forests, rolling land all the way to the horizon. "This is what people think makes me untouchable," she whispered. "But land doesn't keep you warm. People do." Elias stood beside her, quiet. Something inside him, something long buried, stirred like a waking ember. Back at the farmhouse, he fixed a broken chair without being asked. May brewed tea, hands steadier than the night before. When she returned to the table, she set 2 cups down, sitting a little closer than she had earlier. When their fingers brushed, neither pulled away. "I haven't felt at home," Elias murmured, "since the night I lost my wife." May's voice trembled. "And I haven't felt seen in years." The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was full, warm, alive. A beginning, not a gap. Outside, Lila laughed softly as she played with a snow-dusted farm dog she befriended. The sound drifted through the window like a promise the world wasn't done offering goodness. May looked at Elias, her voice barely more than breath. "Stay a while." Elias met her eyes, their quiet strength, their vulnerability, and nodded with the certainty of a man choosing hope after years of darkness. "I will." And in the gentle stillness of that morning, something like family began to take root, quiet, tender, and strong enough to outlast any storm. And if stories like this speak to your heart, stay with us. There are more waiting for you.